I bought my first Bitcoins on March 21st, 2013. I bought it at 66.99 euros. I had no idea what I was doing. I was completely clueless. I was a total beginner.
And when did you realize that actually my Bitcoin are worth quite a lot? At what price point did they get to you were like, whoa, what have I just gotten myself into?
I knew from the beginning this was going to be amazing. Somebody created the narrative. It was probably the banking world and somebody who doesn't like crypto. And I'm like, no, it's not true. It's just simply a lie. 80% of the global money laundering is done by the biggest banks.
Today we're joined by a visionary whose work sits at the very frontier of the global economy. He has lived and worked in over 68 countries, advising central bank, heads of state, and some of the world's largest corporations on the future of money and infrastructure. As the founder and CEO of Lionheart Global and vice president of Phoenix Global, our guest is architecting a future where blockchain, AI, and sustainability are not just buzzwords. He is a man dedicated to cleaning our planet and empowering humanity through technology.
I think death is an illusion. It's the biggest trap. And the second one is time. We are always worrying about what's happening in the future, and none of that exists. And that's our biggest problem.
Sebastian Huth, welcome.
Thank you.
What a bio. I wanted to ask you, when was your first time that you bought crypto? And at what price did you buy it?
Good question. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I got into crypto. I bought my first Bitcoins on March 21st, 2013.
That was early.
It was early. I knew it was around 60, 70 euros. I didn't know exactly how much. Only
Around 60, 70 euros. How many did you buy?
quite a bit.
Ooh.
But then, just to make a point, later on, I looked it up on the blockchain, and it was exactly, I bought it at 66.99 cents, 66.99 euros.
2013, 66 euros
Yeah.
for one Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a platform, because I'm German, based in Germany, and there's a platform called Bitcoin.de, and I basically, bought the cryptos there and had no idea what I was doing. I was completely clueless. I was a total beginner. I was not, conform with any of the wording in there. I didn't know what I was doing, and then after 2 hours, after registering everything, I finally bought the Bitcoins.
And when did you realize that actually my Bitcoin are worth quite a lot? At what price point did they get to you were like, whoa, what have I just gotten myself into?
For some reason, I did have a hunch. Everything that I do, a lot of times we have to use your brain, but I knew from the beginning this was going to be amazing. And I never sold. I never sold until I sold, a few Bitcoins, a year ago, 2 years ago. But
At what price did you sell? Where the price was at what?
I think the first Bitcoins that I sold were at 113,000.
You are amazing. So you bought probably the best investor of all time.
I
You
know.
bought at about 60 euros to sell at 100 and something thousand. You sold before even the current dip that we're in.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
But I didn't want to sell, but I was offered an opportunity to invest in our streaming platform. And then I had the same hunch again, and I said, you know what? This is the first time it's worth. I'm going to take some out. I'm going to invest in them.
So from the best investor in the world who bought Bitcoin at 60 euros and sold it at 120,000, what is this new investment that made you sell your best investment ever to invest in it? What is it? Did you invest in now?
Well, first of all, I didn't back then. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue that I was going to be going so high. I had the hunch, and it's that never changed. And so I only sold like just a few Bitcoins. But I knew this new platform was going to be great. A friend of mine from the US, her name is Larissa Miller. She used to work for the royal family in Abu Dhabi for many years. She was responsible for international investments and everything. And she came to me 2 years ago. We met in Abu Dhabi, spending a day together, driving around into Al Ain. And she told me about the streaming platform. And I had zero interest in any of that. And then she said, but there's something missing. There's something missing. And I said, yeah, I know. It's, blockchain and crypto is missing in this, blockchain streaming and crypto. And she immediately loved the idea. So we started building and integrating this part in the platform. And the more I understood about the platform, and the more I understood who the big partners, the big channel partners that were signing on, I realized it's going to be, the next huge big thing. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take some of that and I'm going to put it in this.
What's the name of this platform?
The platform is called Air, like the air.
The air we breathe.
Yeah, the air we breathe. Fresh of breath air, artificial intelligence radio. That's the abbreviation.
Artificial intelligence radio. So
Yes.
this was radio
Yes,
with artificial intelligence.
that's correct. Yeah.
Explain that to me. It sounds interesting. I'm intrigued.
We've found out over the last 2 years, the latest studies show that people are actually moving away from video content because people always need a phone, a tablet, or computer or something, but people are moving back to audio. And because you can use audio everywhere you want, whether
That's
it's in
true.
your car.
Even a lot of people
you
we
know.
know for the podcast,
Yeah.
they listen to the audio while they're doing something else, but they're listening, not
Yes.
necessarily watching. Yeah, so that's true.
And the other thing is that we notice is that a lot of people they love going back to radio. The radio stations around the world, they have really suffered a lot in the last 2 decades. The prices had gone through the roof. A lot of radio station basically gave up because of pricing. They didn't really, find a lot of advertisement. There was a big fight on, or there's a big competition around the world. And now it looks like people are moving back into ordinary radio because the surveys show that people do not want to know what comes next, that they don't really have an influence on what comes next, what they can hear next, because we're living in the world of instant gratification.
That's an interesting study.
I know.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you're listening to a podcast, a lot of people can fast forward. But you're right to say it's that intrigue. I remember while growing up, we had shows that only play on a Friday. And you'd look forward to the Friday because you
Yes.
wanted to see what's coming next. But
Yes.
you're right. Netflix has sort of brought all content in. So
Yeah.
you're saying that studies are showing that people actually want radio. They want to wait for the next.
Yes. People want to go back to the old days when they do not have that instant gratification, when they do not have exactly what they know next. People want to be surprised. People feel nostalgic. And we have a huge renaissance of radio. And that's why we have a very big response from radio stations around the world. A lot of radio stations that have hundreds of thousands or millions of listeners every day, but they're struggling with costs and everything. And our platform is reducing the overall cost by 60 to 80%. So radio stations, whether they're small, whether they're huge, whether they're in Africa or South America, on Hawaii or somewhere, they can basically start broadcasting immediately.
And what is it that you guys are sure this will work? What is the thing that you're saying this is the gap in the market? Because one may argue to say radio stations can go on TikTok or radio stations can go live on Instagram. But what is the one thing that you're saying this is what's missing and this is what we're solving?
One of the things is we found that people are sick of subscriptions. We have the first AI-powered audio social streaming platform, basically a niche category that doesn't exist yet. It's not a multi-stream, it's a single stream. We have a lot of in-house features that were created. Just one of them, for example, is every spoken content would be translated in whatever language you choose, into up to 50 different languages. So if you speak in, let's say, Afrikaans, doing a talk, then people all over the world can listen to it. They basically tune down the African language, which they don't understand, and then they choose the translation, let's say Hindi or let's say English, and then they can listen to it everywhere. And I think that's a unique part that never used to exist until a few years ago. And people can start interacting. We have something that we call the pushback button, where let's say you do like a Q&A session with your audience, then you can allow somebody in the audience to ask you a question. And then they press a button, and then they can actually speak live on air, whether they're based in Australia or in Germany
So
or
it's like
somewhere.
calling in.
Like the old style radio,
Yeah.
it's like bringing everybody together. And as I mentioned before, we don't want any scammers. We don't want people living in a trailer in Arizona talking about financial freedom and they can't afford their electricity bill. We want honesty. We want integrity. We want real people. We have amazing channel partners. We want high quality content for everybody, not only the big guys, but everybody. But the unique selling part here is that we had done a lot of research. We have a big team that is working also in advertisement. And we have found that all the big platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you name it, all of them are not honoring any content creator properly. They're taking the biggest margin of all. And this is what we want to change. And I think from everybody that we talk to, radio station to mega churches, from influencers to Indian singers, from international superstar rappers to government travel channels, everybody really liked the concept. that nobody can impersonate you, nobody can scam you, nobody can just create a fake account and send you a direct message and basically, take your money from you, your cryptos from you. So we want to have a platform that honors the content creator, that gives the listeners a great experience, that brings authenticity, that brings basically heart and brings everybody together and gives everybody a voice, not only the ones that can afford it, but everybody a voice globally.
So the main selling point here is that the content creator, the government, the mega church will have their content protected and paid. So you're basically solving the fact that content creators are not being paid equally.
Yes. We have a lot of record companies or people from that industry. They were looking at the app, they were looking at the product, they were looking at the technology, and all of them were immediately astonished, because the record labels, or some of the greatest superstars on the planet, are being robbed of their intellectual properties, and by a lot of companies. They're not making a lot of money, and we want to change that. We want to give everybody the opportunity, and sometimes you don't even need a record label anymore, because you can actually produce everything yourself on the platform.
So this is the next Bitcoin, you reckon? That this is going to fly, this is going to be international, it's going to blow up, and everybody's going to come onto it.
I believe that Air is going to be one of the biggest platforms in the world when it comes to audio streaming. And we can also do video streaming, but that's not the focus. The focus is on, bringing a new kind of audio content where people can follow each other, where they can earn points and rewards, where brands, international restaurant chains have their music played on the restaurant, their own channel, and then people go home with this and expand their user base, their customers and everything.
What about the tech mafia known as Google? A lot of people have come out to complain, to say YouTube and Google corner the market, because when you search for where to have a restaurant, it's a YouTube search that's going to come up and it's a video.
Yeah.
And whether you're a podcast, whether you're a musician, somebody can always take your music, put it up, or people can watch your content, steal it, and bring it. And recently, we've heard TikTok say that, hey, people are literally going over to TikTok, recording content, taking it to YouTube, and YouTube is paying them. So a lot of people feel that this behavior
Yeah.
hinders any other platform from growing. How are you going to ensure that they don't eat your lunch?
We don't see ourselves as a competitor to Spotify and all the social media platforms. We would like to coexist. People can actually embed their social media accounts on our platform, and if they like a song by a particular artist, they can go onto Spotify and download it. We just want to give them a single stream experience, full of authenticity, full of fun, full of unique content. And the content creators, after they've seen what this is and after how much they can monetize this, they say, there's not really a point for us to be on other social media platforms. I mean, that's not going to go away, but this would be a good add-on to fairly being monetized.
So in the future, you're expecting us to see Google, Spotify, TikTok, and Air. But Air is dealing with a different niche, which is an audio niche specifically.
Yes. I think everything right now in terms of the global social media is completely, looking for a new way of how to exist. If you look at the situation here in the Middle East and everything, and with what's happening in the United States, we have seen a lot of partners from all over the world, from different countries, being, let's say, reserved about working with a US-based platform. And that's why we are in the process of moving the platform out of the United States. We just come back from India. India has basically created anything and everything that most of the tech companies in the United States did many, many years ago by themselves. And the Indians and the Indian government is basically telling the people, okay, this is what we're going to use from now on, and we're talking about dozens and dozens of platforms, from Google to WhatsApp and everything. They're moving away from it. So I think there's a big shakeup in there, and we want to launch. We are in the beta version. We are planning the big market launch this year. We are now onboarding all the big content partners, the big channel partners right now. They are creating the channels, and then there's going to be the big launch. And we wish everybody good luck, whether it's an Indian company or a US company or anybody. There's always people working behind it.
Yeah.
But the world is waking up now. The world is seeing that what is happening around the world, and people are choosing themselves. And I think they don't want to be using a technology that has a backdoor to be spied on. They don't want to use a technology that was bought by somebody with a background known to be manipulating and censoring certain content. We don't want that.
That's profound. I mean, I could tell from you're very good at spotting early on great opportunities and getting in on them. I mean, you've just told us about how you spotted Bitcoin, and I can see this being the next Bitcoin. But I have a question. Where's the capital coming from? Because for you to compete at that level, you need a lot of money. How are you guys going to maintain this in the beginning to ensure that all the content creators are being paid, advertisers are being compensated, you've got onboarding specialists, and your marketing budget has to be very big? How are you going to ensure that this does hit the big bang that it needs to?
We have a lot of very strong partners that invested into the platform, very strong international partners. We have some very strong partnerships, the one I just mentioned with you in the country of Africa, with dozens and dozens of big radio stations. We are, that's why I just came back from India. We were talking to a lot of very big talent agencies with some very big superstars. So basically what we do is we say, okay, will give you a free channel. You are only responsible for the content, and we will do all the streaming, all the maintaining. We do all of that, and then you are responsible together with us to basically announce it on your social media. So if you have a superstar like we do with hundreds of millions of followers on their social media, it is in their own interest to advertise on their social media and say, look, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Spotify, I'm on TikTok, but now I'm on a new platform. If you want special content that is running 24 hours in a single stream with new add-ons, please come to air, and then people can choose for themselves whether this is something that they like. And then this is where our platform has a big focus on monetization. The revenue that comes from advertisement is a big part, but it's only one part of many. We are working with some very big advertisers and big advertisement companies already. And as I mentioned before, all the other big platforms around the world, most of them are pocketing most of the advertisement revenue to themselves. And this is what we want to change. We want to give the content creators, whether it's the book authors, whether it's the people talking about yoga or about meditation or about as the scientific world. The American Symphony Orchestra is getting a channel. We have some great brands that are getting a channel. We would like everybody together. We would like to have them to get a good platform. And we always say, if you go on a joint venture with us, we don't see ourselves, okay, you get a channel and then goodbye, but we see ourselves as a joint venture. We are only successful if you are successful. So we are working hand in hand together, and this is basically in a very strong team. The people on the board and the people in the executive C-suite positions have worked in some of the renowned places in the world. And once we go out, we're going to go out big and loud. And we have some really cool content creators from all over the world, from Tibet to South America, from Mexico to Africa, from Germany to the UK. Everybody is there. And yeah, we're very much looking forward to it.
I wrote the best-selling book, Mr. Bitcoin, and I also went on national television telling people to buy Bitcoin when it was under $200. Today, I'm doing it all over again. There's a cryptocurrency right now showing the exact same pattern Bitcoin did back then. It's named the fastest growing cryptocurrency in the world, and it's up 330% in the last 30 days. And yes, it's got the same founder as Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. And right now, the market is moving because the early ones win. So I'm running a free 60-minute web class to reveal exactly which cryptocurrency this is and how you can get in. I'll also show you what's working in 2026, the AI tools that you can use to trade, the mistakes most people make, and the frameworks I use, the very same thinking that I've shared with banks, hedge funds, and governments. Wherever you are in the world, seats are limited. So click the link below, register, and you'll understand cryptocurrency like you've never, ever understood it before. I mean, you've had quite an interesting career. You worked with so many vast organizations, CEOs, central banks. How do you keep a clear head about where the world is going and how to capitalize on those opportunities?
I don't know. Do you remember? I don't know. Are you old enough to know the movie Forrest Gump?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so Forrest Gump came out in the early 90s, and Tom Hanks played the character. He was this guy. He never really knew what he was doing. He was always showing up in the right time, right place, and all of a sudden he would always be next to some superstars or people that turn out to be superstars later, or head of states and everything. And this is what basically happened to me. I was never running after any of that. It always came to me. It was like this. I'm like this Forrest Gump magnet, and it just happened, and I just let it go, and if it feels right, I go for it. And I was always treating everybody with respect, whether it was the CEO of a big huge bank or head of state, or whether it was the server in the restaurant or in housekeeping, because I believe that it's important that every human being is equally important, and that way everything always flowed.
I mean, you've lived in 68 countries. What was the biggest culture shock, and in which country did you have this culture shock?
Little correction. I lived, worked, and traveled in over 68 countries. I actively lived for several years. I lived in about 6 countries, several years at a time. But I worked in over probably 40, 50 countries. And the rest is travel, because I always loved traveling, and I always, when I go to a place for work, business, then I always stay longer, come earlier. There are some amazing places on the planet, and every country has something super great and super shocking, or super unusual. I mean, we just, as I mentioned earlier, we just come back from India. I traveled to India for the first time in 2001. And now coming back, I was traveling with my nephew after 20, 25 years. It was a huge change. And the Indian economy, everything has improved so much, and that makes me really happy. But I did see some quite, astonishing places all over the world, I must say, over the last 20, 25 years.
And which one has been a real culture shock? What was the culture shock that you noticed in any one of these countries?
I loved traveling to Tibet last year. I spent about 2 weeks traveling through Tibet, which was amazing. Super culture. I loved, several years ago, I went to the Easter Islands in the South Pacific. That was amazing. Looking at the Moai statues overlooking the South Pacific, one of the most remote places in the world. Nobody knew how they got there. That was quite astonishing. Been to the high plateau in Peru and Bolivia, seeing some very unusual places. I have this great interest in ancient cultures and in traditions. So I've not only traveled to almost 70 countries, but I specifically looked for any stone older than 2,000 years,
Wow.
because
You wanted to see how it was back then.
yes, I mean, I've been to some of the most unusual places all over the world that are thousands and thousands of years old, that were built with technology that even modern science and cannot explain. And some of these places were just really, amazing.
Wow. I mean, let's talk about where the world is headed. There's AI, there's blockchain, there's cryptocurrency, and you've been quite pivotal in advising royal families and advising governments to actually adopt this. What is the biggest challenge you've seen towards adoption? What is the thing that stops people from wanting to get involved with technology?
I think a lot of people are so overwhelmed with technology, and I do believe that, looking around the world, I think one of the most shocking things that I saw, but one of the most common things that I saw, is whether it was in Vietnam or in India or United States or in Bolivia or in Peru or in Germany or anywhere else around the world, people are addicted to their phones. People are addicted and are not sharing stories with one another anymore. The young generation, I would say, after 2000, some of them don't even know how to walk from A to B without technology. And what if, all of a sudden we have a blackout, which happened I believe in Cuba just a couple of days ago, or in Spain, or, what if we have a solar eruption, which NASA warns many, many, many times a year, it could blow out all the electricity. And what if, I think people have gotten too much addicted to technology, and I believe that everybody is yawning, even though they're addicted. I think a lot of people are yearning for a very simple life where they can just, sit at the fireplace or in a chair and talk to one another, like they used to do. My nephew is 19. He asked me several times, well, how did you do this 20 years ago? You didn't have a mobile phone. I said, I don't know. I can't remember. We had maps. We were asking people. We would go to when I lived in Australia, I would buy a phone card, and I would call a number, and then this would be my voicemail. And people from back home, they would, call me on this voicemail and things like that. So many things have changed, and I'm not saying that I want the old world back, but I think it would be much nicer if we can find a way where we interact with one another more than isolate ourselves.
But I mean, in this world that you see where everybody's on their phone, entrepreneurs would sort of say, what then or are those opportunities that exist therein? And I think maybe the deeper question is, how do they scale their business in this new world where everyone is on their phone, but we're all also seeing small nuances that people do want or yearn for the olden way of living. But most importantly, how does an entrepreneur scale a business in this environment today?
How they scale their business? Well, I guess AI is a really good tool to use. I mean, we all know you don't really need a secretary anymore to type you a letter or an email. You can actually do this by yourself. So for me, that was a huge help, to write letters, because sometimes, I would have a typo and I would give it to my secretary. But with this, obviously AI helps a lot. So I think technology is good, but I think up to a certain level. And as you know, people are talking about artificial intelligence. In my opinion, artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor it's intelligent. I believe it's organic consciousness, because none of that is on a level is artificial, because it was all created by people, and it was all created by creation, by consciousness.
That's interesting. Organic consciousness.
Yeah.
Because it was not created by a computer, it was created by a human being.
It was created by human beings, and I believe some of these technologies that we are seeing, we can't even see them. We can't see them. We can only perceive them through a mobile phone or tablet or computer, but we can't touch it. It's basically a whole bunch of zeros and ones. It's all just, at the end of the day, it's all just code. It's all frequency, and it's all not real at all, and yet it is at the same time.
That's quite interesting. I mean, one that segues into this new world of tokenization, where people are saying, since we now have this, I guess we'll call it organic intelligence, people are saying, well, how does this organic intelligence affect my stock market? How does it affect my crypto? How does it affect my property? How does it affect the car I'm going into that's being driven by some form of organic intelligence? Tokenization, is this becoming a boom in the GCC and all around the world?
I think it's becoming a boom around the world, everywhere. Yeah, if you listen to all the big banks, and if you listen to BlackRock, the cryptocurrency is only the tip of the iceberg, and everything that's coming now, it's the tokenization of real world assets. We are still very early in the beginning, but I know for a fact, having worked in this space for a long time, that all the big investment companies, banks, and everybody that's working in finance is basically jumping on the bandwagon now.
I think that's quite interesting because recently we saw everyone talk about oil with what's going on with the tensions. And I read an article that said that Hyperliquid, which is an exchange created by a young man in the US, now has one of the largest trading volumes of oil. And that's just an exchange platform in a futures market. And I sat down for a moment and I said, 10, 15 years back, oil was a system that was traded by a financial stockbroker who was in Wall Street, who probably had 20 years experience, dressed in a formal suit. But now we have it tokenized on an app that's decentralized. And now a 16, 17, 20-year-old can open up their phone and affect the oil price, which affects the whole world in very vast ways. Take me through what happened for us to be able to get to where we are right now.
How do you mean that?
How did this happen that oil is tokenized and every other person can access it? What happened? What did you see? What were the patterns? Could anyone ever have predicted that we'd be here today?
No way. And that's why I'm saying, I know it sounds a bit weird, and you probably think he's a bit cuckoo or something, but I think it has to do with our evolvement in consciousness. Nobody could have ever imagined 50 years ago that there would be something like an internet. even in the early stages, everybody said, okay, internet, that's just a temporary thing. It's going to go away. It's never going to be. Now we can't live without it. We can't see it. We've been using emails every single day. Nobody would have ever thought that we would have a mobile phone in which we have a computer, in which we have our phones, in which we have our cameras and everything. We can do everything with that. And if you would show this device like to somebody like 100 years ago, they probably would think this is magic, And I don't know what happened, but I think it was the evolvement of human species. I mean, with the whole internet, with all this information. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but from what I just studied that recently is that every single day we are learning so much through the internet and everything that is available to us, like people did in 10, 20, 100 years, decades or hundreds of years ago. So everything has become so fast and we are learning so fast. And now with programming AI, not artificial intelligence, but organic
Okay.
consciousness, what if this is all just an extension of our own evolution? And I think that's not the end of it. I think there's more to come.
Something very interesting happened here in the GCC where when silver was becoming a conversation, people were sort of saying, well, the markets are going to move, everybody should be buying silver and gold. I decided, let me find out about what's going on physically in the real world. Physically, I have to measure that twice. What are the prices of silver? So I did a few phone calls and to ask merchants to say, how much is silver? And they gave me a price. And I went online and silver was trading much higher than that. And then what happened the next day is when I called again, they were now using the online price, but silver had dipped on the futures price. And I said to somebody, is tokenization becoming a market even more effective than the physical market, that we will no longer ask each other what is the price of something? We'll simply go on our phone and check what is the online price, the organic consciousness price. Is that world what we're going to be seeing? Are properties going to be bought on a blockchain? Is that where we're headed to?
At the moment, it looks like it. To be honest with you, everything that I'm telling you now is my honest opinion. I could be totally wrong. People could think, okay, he's totally off track, but I've seen this development over the years, and I think it's just at the beginning. I don't think it's the end state. I think there's more to come that we don't even understand yet. But what I'm seeing is that in the future, you're gonna be able to buy and sell every single thing as a token on your mobile phone. Yeah. In the beginning, now I know for example, we're working on a tokenized market for rice tokens with the government of Cambodia. We're
That's
working.
interesting, where one can buy rice as a token.
That's correct. Yeah. So instead of having a contemporary centralized exchange where people come and go, and where manipulation and fraud is one of the top risks in any of these platforms in trading, fraud could be quite eliminated in that sort of way.
Explain that a bit. What do you mean by this fraud and eliminating it off these trading platforms?
Well, from when you look at supply chain, when you look at the origin of certain commodities or products, it could be that your rice is, harvested in China and then sold in the market for, rice from Cambodia or rice from somewhere else. Between the producer and the consumer, there's usually a supply chain of about 35 average entities in between. Everybody taking a cut, everybody sort of being involved.
Aware of this.
And there we're talking about billions of frauds in any kind of commodity. There is, people are changing the origin, people are changing the price, people are changing the quality, people are changing the quantity, people are, adding, manipulating, whether it's in the computer, whether it's written on a book. And once it's documented on the blockchain, that will never happen again. And that's why I do believe that blockchain is a really good way to actually keep artificial intelligence at bay, because artificial intelligence, or let's say the whole organic consciousness, is only as clear and honest and true as the person or the party behind it.
The prompter, yeah.
So you still have to. What I don't like about this is, artificial intelligence gives us a lot of advantages in all sorts of ways, but we all heard all the stories that it's now starting to, get itself, running by itself and making decision by itself, which can be quite scary, and they're creating all these robots and all of that. But I think people are looking forward to normal people again. I see there's a trend that everybody is sort of looking forward to have workers in companies, working in factories. There's going to be robots in restaurants, in hotels and bars and cafes. I think that's going to be for the next years. But there is going to be a point that people want to talk to real people, that people want to, look real people in the eye without having an artificial intelligence robot talking to you or telling you something that you would like to hear.
I like that, and I agree with that. Let's go a little bit about what your work in Saudi Arabia, next gen medical waste. What is that?
We were in India. You just came back 2 days ago, and we did about 4,000 kilometers in traveling around the country. One of the last places we visited was a place called Rishikesh in the foothills of the Himalayas. I was there the first time in 2001. And I remember very well because there's a temple. I think it's called Kunjapuri or something. We were taking the scooters up this temple where it was 25 years ago. And I told my nephew, like, when I went into the temple back then, it was a beautiful temple, beautiful people, a very nice atmosphere, very nice energy. Everything was super clean. And then I looked over the wall, and it was the entire slope was full of plastic and waste. And that made me really sad. And I saw this everywhere. I think my first trip that I ever started was when I was 16 or something. I think I went to Tunisia in Africa. And I've seen in over the last 30 years, traveling to all these countries, living in all these countries, I saw the gradual pollution in almost everything that we've done. I think pardon for my language, but I think the human race is the most stupid and destructive race that can ever, or species that can ever exist. No ant, no lion, no giraffe, or no rhinoceros would ever, take more than they need, would ever kill more than they need, would ever waste, and would ever pollute anything around. We are the only species. Have you ever noticed that we are the only, or have you ever questioned that we are the only species that are paying rent, that are paying taxes, that are running to work every day? We are running around to chase paper money or crypto money to buy something that hoping that makes us happy. We're keeping it at home, and at the end of the day, we want to buy more, we want to eat more, we want to entertain more, and all of that. But when I coming back to the technology, is when I saw that, I thought something needs to be done. And why not partnering up with the latest technologies in recycling to introduce this to different markets around the world and help clean up the waste, whether it's medical waste, whether it's oil spills around the world. I mean, we had done a project in Nigeria, and the big corporations like Shell have been, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they have been spilling oil everywhere, and 1 liter of oil contaminates millions of liters of fresh water. And this is happening in Africa, in the Middle East. This is happening in South
Because
America.
in Nigeria, they're getting oil there.
Yes.
Oof.
And then it just leaks from the pipelines, and then
And
there's
they
a spill
don't take
here.
responsibility for it.
Well, because how can they? Because the big corporation are all out for money and for profits. The people in the streets that they're probably working in the factories or somewhere around. They're just happy to keep their job. The moment they voice it, then they would be thrown off their land. And
Sure. And I mean, I've heard horror stories of where oil pipelines, you'd sort of find criminal cartels that would make a little cut in the oil pipeline to steal the oil, and then it just leaks. They don't care about all of that, and it just goes straight into the ocean. But how are we allowing this as human beings? How are we turning a blind eye?
I don't know. I think it really has to do with a certain level of awareness and education. If you tell people, okay, if you take a liter of waste oil and you put it into the soil, there's a big chance that you're contaminating the drinking water from the well that you're using every day to drink and make your own tea or coffee. So I think education is very important. But I also think it's important that the leaders of each government around the world, that they make the decision and say, okay, stop the oil spill, stop the plastic, stop this.
But also to punish these companies. I think it's important.
Yeah.
Because the only language companies understand are fines.
It's all about profit. It's all there is. It's all about profit and everywhere, and we all like to make money. That's because we all want to have a good life. We all want to have a good living, but it shouldn't be on the expense of others or in the environment. I mean, again, we're the only species killing other species, polluting the soil, cutting down the trees. We are like the the worst species this planet has ever seen, you know?
Can I engage you deep on that? Because we run the Umpo Foundation in South Africa. And, we house orphans, and we'll talk about it more in the podcast. We house orphans. We help the Nelson Mandela Children's Home, child-aided homes. We take kids to school. And what we found is whenever we have donors, or, the foundation was started by myself to give back due to the profits that I made in crypto. But when we have donors, we often find that the majority of funds go to sustaining food, education. And in Africa, because we do our work in Africa, the environment always, because somebody once asked me a good question and said, when are you going to help clean up the rivers as a foundation? And I said to them, to be quite honest, whenever we get money, we have so much need to give back to the other areas that it feels like the rivers are a last thought. And I'm being completely honest with you, because you look at what we've done. We've built schools. We've done so much work. However, the rivers always come back as ooh, what do we do then? Since we don't have enough money for that, let's just hope and pray to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? Because now I'm asking to say, as a foundation, how do we fix that? Because this is a very big issue that must be tackled. Is it about picketing at government fences to say, government, if you don't hold these big oil companies accountable, we just will not vote? Well, how do we practically fix that?
I have no idea. I just have a few. I mean, it works. I mean, it can work. I mean, look at here at the UAE. The UAE is opening up the landfills and recycling everything. You know, companies like Bea, for example, they are huge in recycling technologies here in the GCC and everything. I wish that more companies and more governments around the world would stick their heads together. You know what I would love to do?
Yes.
I would love to get, and if anybody's listening and can make this happen, I'm in. I would love to get every single leader of every single nation in one room, and nobody's going to leave until every single problem on the planet is fixed. Like, no more wars, no more all this, hate turning brothers against brothers, religion against religions, killing animals and plants and trees and cutting down everything. I mean, none of that makes sense. And 99% of the global population, everybody just wants to live in a clean environment with clean water, with clean food, with education, making a living, having their family, living in peace. That's 99%. But 99% of the global population do not get it together to keep these few people in place that are sitting in the government places, giving each other, suitcases full of money and bribing each other and blackmailing each other. It's disgusting. And I mean, what you've seen in the United States with all the files, what you see here in the Middle East now, this really has to stop. And I wish there would be more true leaders, and I hope that there's more brave, young, good, integrous, good-hearted people coming from all these places around the world, come together and say, okay, no more with that. That's what I wish to do. And I would love to get them all in one room and say, okay, nobody's going to leave until every single problem is fixed and we actually live together as one species, because we are the only species on the planet that is completely divided. We're divided by language, we're divided by religion, by culture, by none of that. But we're all human. That's it. We all have 5 fingers. We all have a face. We all have 2 ears, most of us. We all have 1 nose. We all have 1 mouth. There shouldn't be any discussion about what people wear, how they look, what color they have, what religion they have. None of that should matter. The only thing that should matter is to realize we are basically all one. We are all metaphysically, quantum physically, and the ancient cultures have talked about this for thousands of years. And, now is the time to wake up. And this is, what I'm basically trying to contribute with everything that I do. And I don't know if everything that I do is correct and if this is the right thing, but that's my deepest heart wish, to make a little change in this planet for better, getting on with one another.
That's part of why we do this podcast, is to conscientize people on that, to say it's very important to have these conversations, because what you've just said, a lot of people are not aware that that's what people actually want. And I say that to say, I've been in political offices where I've understood both sides of the story, where the one person says we need clean drinking water, and the other one says, before you tackle the water, do you mind giving me land first? And the other one says, before you give this one land, do you mind giving me money first? And then you deal with money, land, water. And behind the reason behind all of them is they all have their very strong reasons. So I hear what you're saying, but I also sit at this place where I'm saying where I've seen it work is a place like Dubai where there's one leader. And that leader allows everyone to speak, but at the end of the day, they end up making the decision
Yeah.
after having listened to everybody. So I hope that we would get that right. I want to talk a little bit about tokenization. I want to ask you something a bit controversial, a bit challenging. Should we tokenize decisions? Would that look like solving the problem we've just described? If we had to say to everybody, instead of us allowing everything to be made in terms of corrupt leaders bringing money bags, let's tokenize this. Should this company fix this oil leak? It's tokenized, repercussions are tokenized, and we live in this tokenized world where we all pick up our devices and just, does it look like that?
That's a very good suggestion. I've never heard about this, and I've never thought about this. I think there are some brilliant things that you can do with tokenization, not only tokenizing physical things, but you can also tokenize electricity and things like that. And I think there are some great opportunities here. You can tokenize property. For example, I've been speaking about this for the last 10 years on global stages. There are about 150 million people that are losing their properties every single year. 150 million people, and that's not only in South America or somewhere in Asia or in Africa. It's right in the middle of Europe. It's right in the United States. It's everywhere. And people are like, "What are you talking about?" It is big conglomerates going into the registration offices, bribing the officers, changing, manipulating certificates, and they're basically throwing people off their lands every single year, 150 million times. What if we start tokenizing land and document it on the blockchain that family Müller or family Jones has lived on this property for 100 years, and this is their land title, and nobody can go in there and go into a centralized registration office and rip out a page out of a book, like many countries are still working like this. Or you're bribing somebody to go into computer system and change a title, which happens every day too. What if you do this on the blockchain? Because if you can't manipulate and alter a document, that's not possible. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with tokenization.
I mean, when we talk about tokenization, there are those naysayers, and I would want you to address them as an authority to say the naysayer that says, but if you tokenize a gas field and things go wrong, how do I know that my part of the token owns the gate of the gas field? And the other one says, well, mine owns the infrastructure of the gas field. Mine owns. And I guess my first question is, but if you have shares, how do you know that your shares own that? But for people that do say that, where have you found that tokenization does not work? Are there areas where it really does not work? And what are those findings?
I think one of the biggest problems is that we are still in the early stages. I mean, I've been working with this for the last, just tokenization for the last 5-6 years. And some of these tokenization companies, they only came about like 6, 7, 8 years ago. So this is still a very, very early industry. So they've built a technology infrastructure that now a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of governments, a lot of banks and asset managers are using. And they're not only using it, but they're actually buying these blockchain companies that were just created a few weeks, few months, few years ago. And some of these companies are now worth billions. For example, in Switzerland is this big crypto hub. It's a town called Zug. They have over 800 or something companies, and they are now generating dozens of billions of US dollars in GDP every single year. So we are still very early, and one of the biggest problems here is that people still don't understand it yet. People don't still understand crypto. I mean, I've been teaching thousands of people in crypto all over the world, and one of the biggest problems is education, because people don't know how to do it. Over 90% of the global population that is in crypto, they're still keeping their coins on all the exchanges. Unfortunately, nobody's telling them how to do it. The exchanges are not interested in telling them to withdraw to their wallets, and people don't really understand it. And that's why so many scammers are coming in, and they're pretending to be an official from an exchange or from a wallet, and snatching their private keys and recovery keys and everything. So if anybody's listening, do not keep any coins on your exchange, because you don't own them there. And
Keep them in stuff, yeah.
so and people are still trying to understand crypto and the wording and the technology behind it, and some people haven't even understood real world asset yet, and what it means, and different kinds of tokens and everything. So it's still a long way to go, but I do believe that at one point, and it's not going to be far, everybody's going to use it. It's going to be like this, bam, at a certain percentage, everybody's going to wake up and then they know how to use, and now everybody knows how to use TikTok or Instagram. 10 years ago, nobody knew what Instagram was or TikTok. And now everybody's like, oh, did you see this on TikTok? So I think everybody's going to be using it very, very shortly. But the liquidity is still missing. People are still trying to create tokens there, that are totally useless, that nobody wants, and I think that's the problem. We're still very early. People don't understand it yet. But I think soon it's going to be big.
Hmm. I agree with that. I mean, when you look at Bitcoin, the beautiful part or the thing that intrigues people is that there is intrinsic value, that there are ASIC miners in China, that are in Russia, they are in Kazakhstan, that build warehouses, that do need electricity, that do need cooling systems, that do need a lot of RAM, that do need GPUs, that do need servers to cause this blockchain to run. And people have been very happy with that, to say, we love the fact that there is a value behind the number that we're seeing. However, people have often felt that in the real world, the reason why they would not want to tokenize things is because certain people don't want people to realize that, oh, actually, the value you say is there is not there. And similar to what you said, to say these 85 companies that are all eating from rice, but none of them have ever been to a farm.
Yeah.
What are they doing there? But maybe then the question should be to ask, to say, is it not that we have the enemy who's been eating for so long, that's aware that if you say now I have to move to Bitcoin, I don't want to buy this ASIC miner, I don't have the resources to build this factory, I don't actually want to do work, I want to continue doing my fraud. And even to bring the conversation closer to home, to say, what if the banks are the ones saying, no, we don't want to tokenize world because we want to charge people for late payments, we want to charge people for not paying their rent and repossess their home. But through tokenization, you can help someone repay back their loan, and everything is on a blockchain and it's all transparent. And they're all saying, no ways, we will not allow this to happen. We cannot allow someone to stop us from stealing.
Yeah, right. You're totally right. I mean, for everybody listening, and you probably know, from hundreds of millions and billions of transactions in the crypto space every single year, only about 0.23% are illicit transactions. Because, somebody created the narrative. And I know who did. It was probably the banking world and somebody who doesn't like crypto. They created the narrative. This is, yes, whoever. We know. The.
We didn't mention your name, so don't kill us.
I know the people on the list. I'm not on it. I actually Googled myself and on the list, and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm not on it.
Sure.
I know. I'm not in there. And what did we say? Sorry, I thought I was track.
The big guys that are causing the illicit
So
fees.
they created this narrative. Oh, crypto is so bad, and it's all money laundering. It's all these crazy people and everybody. It's just one big scam. And I'm like, no, it's not true. It's just simply a lie that was created, a lie that was created around what's happening here, a lie that was created around everything. And I mean, it's ridiculous. So and now you're totally right. So if there's somebody comes in with a way of making sure that funds that move from A to B get not taken out on the side, a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah.
And 80% of the global money laundering is done by the biggest banks, And just recently, was it JP Morgan again? Or was it Deutsche Bank again? I have this joke I was asking in a TV show in Germany the other, like a year ago or so. Deutsche Bank, I mean, it's my country, and I shouldn't say anything bad, but they are just like all the other banks, so bad. They are manipulating every single thing, and they're not doing it just for one time or two times. They're not for like a year and then they stop it. They've been doing this systematically for decades.
That's
for
true,
decades.
yeah.
They're rigging every single market, and they're sitting in their offices and they're clapping their hands and they're like, wow, we are so good. We have just made 10 billion and we don't only have to pay 1 billion in fine. Let's continue,
Yes,
And
yeah.
then Deutsche Bank did this several times, and the other day I was doing this joke and I said, you know what? The German or the police in Frankfurt, because Deutsche Bank is based in Frankfurt, they have this big tower. They should actually rent an apartment in this building, because every few months they have to go in there and raid everything and take everything out, and then they could actually have a police station there that would actually save money, and people, they could just click on the elevator, go to the next level and say, can we have your computer, because they're doing it over and over again, and it doesn't stop. So they are the real ones that are being fooling all of us, and crypto is not that. Of course, there's a lot of scammers in the crypto world, we know that, and people taking advantage of this, but 99.8% of all global transactions in crypto are legitimate,
Legit.
good transactions,
Yeah.
and 80% of global money laundering is done by all banks, and not some banks in a country in South America or somewhere else. It's done by HSBC, by Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and all of them. They're all in one line, and I think that needs to stop.
I agree with you. But I mean, looking at the crypto, let's go back to crypto. There's now a new narrative of privacy in crypto. We've seen ZTCs now being spoken of. Monero, people are very afraid of it. What are your thoughts on that? Is privacy a thing, or is it something that's not going to grow?
I believe that governments and intelligence have been using, private or security coins for the last years already in big transactions, because they've been moving money from A to B, financing, groups. I don't want to mention anything for years.
Is that why now Monero is so up and just now we have a war? Someone moving something here. There's
Of
something
course, I mean, come on, guys, let's look at everything that's just been released from the files. I mean, literally every single conspiracy theory of the last 10, 20 years has now been proven to be right, because it's all there in
Do
the
you
writing.
believe that we're in a war because the files were released? Because I saw that somebody said somebody's trying to distract us from the
Yeah,
files.
I do.
Because I did,
I do.
I literally planned to sit down and analyze the files.
I do.
And I stopped myself to say, I don't have time. I need to focus on safety first.
I do.
So somebody did a beautiful beautiful in their wicked way, psyop of making sure we all don't find out what was in those files.
Everything that seems to be black is not black, and everything that seems to be white is not white.
Because you're right,
Everything is
I
mixed
forgot
up.
everything. There was a particular part in that file that I wanted to find out certain things about certain individuals that run foundations, and what were they doing on that island, how many times their jet went there, and I just didn't go back to doing so because I thought, well, we need to figure out what's going on between these countries that are at war, and maybe these countries were actually innocent after all, and someone is just, well, let's make a little carnival over there, let everybody focus there while we make sure they forget about. Do you think he's still alive?
I think so. I think it was all about blackmailing anything and everybody, turning brother against brother, sisters against sisters, scaring people, manipulating people, killing people, really horrible things. And again, it's only a few people. Come on, humanity, let's wake up, let's get together and throw them all out, and we can do it. But when I look at the United States, I used to live in the United States. I have a lot of beautiful friends in the United States, but come on, nobody's ever charging anybody there yet.
Do you think we could overthrow the man who's behind all of this? Because a lot of people have tried to overthrow them, but they just say they're too powerful, that they sort of eliminate you.
I don't believe in any of that. I think we are more powerful than we don't allow ourselves to be powerful, and powerful doesn't mean that you have to be violent or anything, I mean, Gandhi was one of the big examples, he talked about nonviolence.
Yeah, and he overthrew very wicked
yeah.
leaders. Yeah, Nelson Mandela also did the same thing. He
Yes.
overthrew a whole corrupt government because
Yeah.
of that.
I
So do
just-
you think we should be taking them on? I mean, this is
Yeah,
inspiring.
but we should do it in a different way. I just had an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in India, and he was always been talking about bringing everybody together, not separating people, and always non-violence, and it's always compassion from the heart. And I think our biggest superpowers is not the weapons, is not crypto, is not AI, is not oil, is not gas, it's not pharma. Our biggest superpower of all humanity is our big hearts. If we just go all in, if we all just create a small spark of that and see not the separation between us, but that we are all connected, I think that's the biggest superpower.
I love that. We always challenge everybody who comes on the podcast to give something towards the foundation, but we always say, give us a challenge. So what is your challenge, and what would you be willing to donate towards the foundation? So you could do something like, for every view or every comment on this episode, you would give a certain amount towards the foundation. So what is your challenge for us today?
I have no idea. Would it be okay if I, would you allow me to some time to think about it? Because I literally have no idea what to do, and I want to do something really nice and something really cool. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But I think it's time that humanity wakes up. I mean, for me, crypto is not about. I always talked about crypto and blockchain for people to use this opportunity to change their lives financially. And not only that, but also once they've done that, to do something good and give back. And I think that's the whole point of it, you know. I always tell people, don't sit on your money and don't be like a squirrel and don't just think about yourself, you know, give something back. Because there's no point in, you know, the last how do you say in German, we have the saying, the last dress doesn't have any pockets, you know. So basically you can't take any money with you. You come naked and you're gonna leave naked. And come on, guys, you know, let's get together and let's, you know, turn this around. You know, there's only a few people who are steering this and have been, you know, driving us mad, and we can easily do that.
I love that. I mean, we're building a blockchain system where charity can be seen on a blockchain, because what we found is that a lot of people give, and this money doesn't, it ends up in corrupt people's pockets. As we know, people on the Epstein list, they had foundations as well, and they claimed they were giving money away. And I said to somebody that we have to move charity to a blockchain.
Absolutely.
If you donate 100 euros or 100 pounds, you must be able to go on a blockchain and see. And we're not saying put the picture of the person, but put the details to say this money built this school, and somebody can verify that on a blockchain. So we're building that, and we're hoping that that can be something that the whole world uses for free.
Yeah.
To say whatever you give, it must be on a blockchain, it must be visible.
Maybe we can create tokens where that people can buy, and each token has a certain name or a certain number or certain something attached to it, so that you know, okay, I'm gonna buy token number so and so, and now this token is being used to build a school in Panama or in Nigeria.
I love that. Maybe we must do it together.
Yeah, maybe we should do
It
that.
would be lovely to have your brain. I mean, you're quite advanced in this. That's very lovely. I'm going to ask you some signature questions that we ask all our guests, and these are just meant to make you think, but also just to get a feel and understanding of where your mind is. If your life were a book, what would be the title of that book?
Good idea. Good question. Maybe it's all just a dream.
Maybe it's all just a dream. Wow. Makes sense. I mean, you've just visited India.
You know why?
What?
I love talking about this. Is it okay?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not expecting anybody to believe this, and you know, but if you do, you know, send us a feedback. The latest scientific discoveries, also with the help of AI and computing and everything, have basically shown that over 90, probably 97%, I don't want to be specific on exactly on that everything that exists out there in the universe is dark matter or antimatter. So only about 3%, 3 to 4% is something that we can touch. Okay. And yet at the same time, if you are looking at, have you ever heard about the double slit experiment?
No.
Okay.
I'm about to go to school here, because
Okay.
I love what
All
you're
right.
saying.
So,
Hold on. Let me bring my viewers in here.
yeah.
Everything you see today is made out of matter, some form
Yes.
of matter. And you're saying we've only tapped into about 3%.
Yes.
Because of obviously what we see.
Yes.
Of all the matter that's
Yes.
available.
Yes. For example, if you look in a room and you think you're seeing 100%, science says you can actually see less than 10%. Interestingly, science also says that we are using less than 10% of our brain. So, but what is with all the other stuff, the 97 or, you know, something, why is it only 3% that we see? What is all the other stuff?
Yeah.
They're talking about it's antimatter or dark matter. But they also say that everything that you see isn't real either. It's
Ooh.
real and it's not.
It's
so,
only, yes.
Okay.
That experiment, I've seen that experiment.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Sorry, my nephew's here. He's laughing because I was basically, you know, showering him with all of this in India for the last.
I mean, so excited.
So it's basically the double slit experience, just in short. And I don't want to, you know, if anybody is just reading about it.
We need it in long. You know. We have time.
Okay. So you are shooting some particles at a wall. In that wall, there are two slits.
Yes.
And on the other side of that wall, these particles create a certain wave pattern.
Yeah.
That can be documented with technology.
Yes.
But all of a sudden now they realized that they put a camera on the side and they were filming the whole thing. And the wave pattern that was created by the particles passing through the slits on the other side they all of a sudden changed
Because of the camera.
because of us being the viewer, the watcher.
Yes. They did that with the experiment
So-
where they put the balloon under the water.
Yes,
And it was all dark.
Yes.
And the moment you looked,
Yes,
it popped.
yes.
And the moment you looked,
Okay.
it popped. Oh my gosh!
Now, do you know what that could potentially mean is?
That
And this
the
is
energy
and
comes
this
real when we
and basically
focus.
this is exactly what the ancient cultures around the world have been talking for thousands of years.
I mean,
If you-
Einstein spoke about the same thing. Equals MC squared was birthed out of this.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, we're going totally off topic here. Okay, we're totally going. The first hour was like, oh,
I wanna hear more, I wanna hear
blockchain and crypto and banks and all of
I
that.
wanna
Okay,
hear more, I
now
wanna hear more.
now this guy's going totally off the ramp and he's like going into
I
cuckoo
love
land.
this.
Okay,
Are
so
you saying that the ancient religions in India were talking about this?
not only India, South America, North America.
Yeah, I know in Nigeria they're very
in
big on this.
the Sufis have talked about this.
Yes.
Every single religion has a certain secret,
Yes.
branch of sacred knowledge. It's the same everywhere.
Okay.
And basically, we have five senses. We actually have six senses, but we have five senses, probably some more. But we have everything that we see, everything that we smell, everything that we hear, that we taste, and that we touch is subject of our own conditioning. So if the watcher is looking at the experiment, all of a sudden the wave pattern changed, which means is that we are the ones doing this.
Yes. That we give meaning to
now,
things.
okay, we've been talking about this big problem about corruption, about the
Yes,
list and all the
yes,
families and 1% and conspiracy and everything and blah blah blah. But what if we are all making this? And there's this really cool saying by Rumi. Rumi is one of my, if you don't know Rumi, look him up. He's this really cool Sufi poet, mystic, in my opinion, one of the most enlightened people on the planet. He was born in Afghanistan, died in Turkey in 14th or something century. His poems are really spot on. And basically he says, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Oof. I like the entire ocean.
So, and interestingly is, the ancient traditions around the world, from the Maya to the Incas, from the Aboriginals to the, everybody talked about the same thing, that there will be coming a point in human evolution and history. And I'm talking about this point now. And that's why I was saying, I don't believe that artificial intelligence is artificial or it's intelligent. I believe that artificial, it's organic consciousness. It's us evolving in the dream. We are the dreamer and the avatar, the creator at the same time. And Rumi has another cool saying. He says something along the line, yesterday I was clever and I wanted to change the world. And when I was younger, I was always like,
I get it. But today I am wise and I want to change me.
I want to change the world. I want everybody to live in prosperity, harmony, and love. But Rumi also says, but today I'm wise and I'm changing myself, because there is no separation between us and everything else.
We give meaning.
We give meaning. So basically, this entire universe is only there. For me, there are probably two or the three biggest hooks that keep us in this state, in this hamster wheel of everything, from waking up, are three things. Death doesn't exist, never did. But it's the single most important thing of all the news and all the Netflix and all the Hollywood, keeping us in this fear, and the worst punishment is death. It's just an illusion. I think death is an illusion. It's the biggest trap. And the second one is time. There is no time. There's no past. There's no present. There's no future. It's just one single moment, ever evolving. And the moment I came in here, we can't go back there. And we can't go to the moment when I'm leaving this building, because everything is happening in the present moment. And this is our biggest problem as humanity, because we always, we're always wondering, oh, what happened yesterday, and somebody said something bad to me, and I feel I'm still feeling bad about what he or she said to me, or somebody made a dent in my car, and we are always worrying about what's happening in the future, and none of that exists. And that's our biggest problem. And I think death is a big trap, time is a big trap, and also space is a big trap. Have you ever thought about have you ever thought about
Eternity. We
eternity?
dwell in eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I
But
study
not
it every
only
day.
going out there, but also going in there.
Mm.
Like if you're going into the smallest particle, it goes on forever and ever. It's not going to be like a wall all of a sudden, and then eternity ends, and then it's like, okay, what's behind the wall? It doesn't, and it's all just a crazy dream. And we are in it right now, and this is what the ancient traditions have talked about for thousands of years, literally, and say, okay, now it's time to wake up. That this is just one big dream. So if you want to change the world, change yourself, because there's no separation.
There's this great teacher from Nigeria that I listen to. It's unfortunate that a lot of people listen to him but don't understand him. But he calls it sound code. And he says, when you have the glass and you have an opera singer, why is it that at a certain pitch, a frequency, the glass shatters? Ping! And he says, why? What shattered the glass? And says, you can ask everybody else to sing, but the moment, so he says, when that opera singer looks at the glass, because if she can't see it, it's not going to shatter. He says, there's a connection between what you see and what you say. That marriage, when that frequency of what you're seeing and what you're saying come together, says that's when it bursts. And explaining what you say to say, that opera singer, they've done the experiment to say, sing and look away. The glass won't burst.
Yeah.
He says, sing and look at a cat. And she goes, oh, and the glass won't burst at the same frequency. But the moment she looks and she wants to burst it,
We are doing this.
yes,
And quantum physics is now picking up this.
Yes!
Quantum.
That's how it
computing.
works.
They're now actually talking about this is in simulation.
sound code,
And
yes.
but it's not a simulation by somebody, a third party, somebody bad
It's
out
the
there.
looking and the sound.
It's us. We're
Yes.
doing this.
Yeah. And that's why the Asians go, the ones that levitate. They cannot levitate unless there's a sound code. It is when the mind and the sound code, that's when it happens.
Well, that was the best turn interview I've ever had. And to be honest with you, I love my job, I love my work, but this is the real stuff that I wanna
This is
do.
the real work, yes.
This is what I want to do in the future.
Getting
I
humanity
want to talk
to-
about people to wake up. Come on, let's wake up, and not
Oh.
to blame anybody outside of you. You're blaming yourself. You made this.
Wow.
Everybody
This
out
is
there
what the
is like-
podcast is about.
oh my God, who's this guy? I'm gonna put him on the cookie list for him. I'm gonna call CIA, FBI, Mossad, and Interpol. We have to have him arrested. No, I think it's all us, and a lot
It
of
is,
people.
it is.
And traveling through India, I had some of the most profound encounters with people, young people, old people, masters from the Himalayas, scientists and everything.
Oh, I can't wait to meet them.
And they all talk about the same thing.
Yes.
We are all one. And not only that we're all connected, but there's only one. And I always used to say, if one awakes, the one awakes. Because there's no separation.
Wow. This has been so powerful.
So and imagine if people realize that we're all one, and there's only one, you will not hurt anybody else outside of you, whether it's a plant, an animal, or a person. You will never judge anybody ever again, because they're you. You're judging yourself.
Yeah.
And when you talk about other people in a negative way, you're talking about yourself. It says more about yourself than about the person. So come on, guys, let's wake up and let's realize this is a beautiful planet. We made this. It's all us. And everything that I said earlier, forget about it, because it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Wow, that was an amazing interview. Wow, thank you. Thank
You're
you very
welcome. No,
much.
thank you.
Wow, that was lovely. That was lovely.
It's always a bit like this moment when you say, okay, I don't care, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, no, but we have to say it, because I think the world is suffering because we keep quiet. That's what I said to the guys. I said, when I was conceptualizing the podcast, I said two things. I said, one, every entrepreneur has to give. That was a non-negotiable. Somebody said, oh, but that's awkward. What if you feel awkward? And I said, then I won't do the podcast. I have no reason to do it if they're not going to give. That was the first thing. The second thing was, we have to find out the reason why. Because at the end of the podcast, we have a lot of successful people in Dubai, but this moment always happens. These questions, at the end of it, all of them always answer and say, I just want the world to be peaceful. I want everybody to be happy. It always
to
comes back to that. Yeah.
yeah.
So for me, that's if I don't get this in the podcast, I'll keep digging. Up until we get it, then I'm like, oh, my work is
I
done.
know. I mean, in the beginning, it starts off, "Oh, yeah, that sounds interesting, AI and
Yeah, it's
streaming
always
platform and tokenization, and we've heard about it before, but we're gonna give it a chance." And then when people read the caption, they're probably like, "Oh, another AI, another going,
Yeah, we haven't heard before.
maybe you're gonna call it there's only one, or we are
Oh, I
one,
like that.
or
I like that.
something
There's
like
only
that.
one. I like that. Yeah, yeah,
There's only one.
yeah.
And what if we all wake up now and realize that artificial intelligence is not artificial, no intelligence. It's organic consciousness because nothing exists outside of us. It is us who
I
did.
think what you're saying is just so profound, but I don't know if they'll ever get it. But what you're saying is so accurate because I said to somebody the other day, I said, I'm quite frustrated with AI because I'm smarter than it. And somebody was like, but you are smart. And I said, no, but problem is that I'm smarter than it. I wanted to be smarter than me, and it just didn't happen. I wanted it to give me a moment where I'm like, whoa, AI is so smart. And I just have not found it. So I realized that, oh no, you're right. It's not intelligence outside of you. It's not artificial, really. It just really is an extension of
It's our extension.
yeah,
And people don't realize that people treat it as as
yeah.
a third thing, but it's not. It's neither male nor female nor
Mm,
it's part of us.
yeah.
There's no separation.
Mm,
And if we want to change the world, we have to change our vibration.
yeah.
The best way to do that is to practice meditation,
Yes.
yoga, eating, thoughtfulness, mindfulness, compassion, being kind and loving to everybody else.
Mm,
The word love has been distorted on this planet for thousands of years.
true.
Everybody, at the moment you say love, everybody's either going to run away or people gonna jump on you because this word has been distorted and manipulated in combination with sexual energy, for example. So
Yeah.
when people are afraid of using the word love, because men are afraid of using the word, because the moment you say love, like, oh, he's using the word love, that's very weak. Men don't say that. Men has to be hard. We're all fighting and we're killing each other. Blah blah blah. No, it's not. It's all manipulated.
Mm,
And I think it starts within us. Let's change it. Because I think our biggest superpower, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest superpower that we all have is our big heart. Hey, did
mm.
you know that there's actually a physical place in our physical heart that they call it the
The mind.
core of the heart?
Yes,
The,
yes, yes.
the
The
tissues
mind of
in
the heart.
there.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes,
the
yes.
tissues in there
We've
resemble
not
the
understood
cells in
them.
the brain.
Yeah.
Because when you start using your heart and start thinking from the heart, you cannot create something that is based on duality and something of judgment, because
Yeah.
once from the heart,
Yeah.
you're actually the heart is the most powerful
There's,
organ and
there's
center
actually
in the body.
in the Bible there's a line that says, "With the heart man believes." Hold on, how can you believe with the heart? Do you
Yes.
get it? Yeah, the heart can believe.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe this thing deep in my heart. People were right.
This is the most profound
Yeah.
center of all. It connects the lower, the upper, and everything else.
You can believe with
And
your heart. Yeah.
going into realizing that we all one is moving from the brain into the heart.
Yes.
Moving from the separate hemisphere into the heart.
Yeah. The brain can process, but with the heart, man believes.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in your heart, it's just a bunch
Yeah.
of data.
And when you create things from the heart, you cannot create something that is negative. It's
Yeah,
not possible,
yeah.
because you're creating it from love.
Yeah.
If you think you're creating it from the heart and
Yeah.
something negative turns out, then you probably created it from
Yeah.
here.
And love never fails.
Exactly.
Yeah. If it was done with love, it will not fail. Yeah.
That's our biggest superpower.
Yeah.
Because there's the universe, the one consciousness, whatever. It's the highest frequency is
It is, yes.
Yeah.
If it's done with love, and I think that's why the richest people, those that are doing great, you often find what's the big secret behind it. It's just like, I just love what I do.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not a job for me. I don't check hours. I love what I do. And you're like, oh, this thing is a driving force.
Can
So,
we
yeah.
cut the first hour or something?
Like,
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I think this is why I said to somebody. So I mean, the stuff I used to do for work, right? And it got to a point where I said, I don't want to do work. And I just said, I'm very good at what I do. If you put me in front of a stage or you put me to train people, advise you, I'll do very well at that. And I said, no, I just want to go to Dubai and talk to the best people and get them to realize these things. And I said, number one, non-negotiable, they must give because that's going to make me happy. Number two, they must have their reason. And that's why the podcast is called For This Reason. What is your reason? And we just get them, and you'll be surprised. All of them end up exactly where you've ended up.
Maybe we should do like something like a roadshow or something in different places.
I'd love to, yeah.
Bring people in life together
Yes.
and do something
Yeah.
do something with the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
That's-
Yesterday we had a gentleman who made us walk on. He does firewalks and stuff, and we're walking on nails. And he was like, "You know, your body can literally walk on nails. Like there's nothing your body can't do." It was phenomenal. But yeah,
You know, when
I'm
you
enjoying
when you
this.
when you research the old Vedic scriptures from India that go back like tens of thousands of years ago, they talked about the more you open your heart, the more you raise your consciousness, the more you awaken. They called it the siddhis. These are sort of certain special
Oh my gosh.
byproduct techniques that everybody develops.
Yeah, I know
And,
that.
there are many of them.
Suddenly,
And I think that's the future. You know, let's
Yeah.
look for CDs and use them to help each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh wow, that's interesting. I'm gonna study that some more because I've heard that there's a song that says your CDs are new, now and always, and I always wondered what they meant. So yeah. No, I mean I've studied. I mean the last study I had to stop myself was teleporting. I literally stopped. I said, "Ooh, I'm becoming freaky." I was meditating on the ability for you to teleport, to move from one place to the other, and I had found so many monks that had levitated. Videos of monks I just kept going at it because if you really look at it, you just matter after all. Yeah,
That's true.
you could, yeah.
You
And you can prove it because if Joe Dispenza can heal cancer, Joe Dispenza has been doing this for years, and he has been healing cancer just through meditation.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
I think so.
if Joe can heal cancer, I mean, really, what cancers matter?
You know, when people use plant medicine and things like that,
Yeah.
a lot of people are judging it. A lot of people don't understand it. But it was called plant medicine because, and it's been used for thousands of years across the world, from the ancient Egyptians to the Maya to the Inca to the Aztecs and everybody around the world. Every country, every region has a certain substance that were
Of course,
that they
the
called
cocaine leaf is very beneficial.
yeah, and
People
they
of Bolivia.
used it
Trauma
medicine.
cases, yeah.
And you know what happened? When they ingested the substance, whatever it was, it actually opened up the energy centers in the body, opened up the veils between this reality and the better reality. And then when people saw that the whole issue about cancer or some other illness is just an illusion or a
Hatred, usually.
yeah,
Yeah, bitterness and hatred, yeah.
and when people have instant healings,
Yeah.
because none of that is real. It's just we all just created it and we can uncreate it.
True.
Yeah.
No, I've studied it years. I mean, people like Einstein have this equation equals MC squared. I've spent hours on it. Hours. There's times where I can't wait for the day I'm able to get a submarine, go down there and do the experiment. I need to do it myself. Like I actually want to get on and I've studied the videos of guys that did it. They were just shocked. They were like, every time we look, the balloon pops. But when we look away, the balloon is just there. Like, what is it? What were we emitting that made it pop?
Yeah.
And the opera singers, I mean, I've been to an opera singer that broke the glass, and every time she did it, I just was amazed. I was like, look that side, sing. Why isn't the glass breaking? The wave had to connect. You had to see it for it to. And I was like, oh, sound code. And do you know that there are certain words that have the same effect of animals, whether you say it in your language or my language? Like whether somebody says to a dog, go away, in whatever language they say it to, the dog does repel. So why is it like that? Because the words are just, they don't mean anything. There's a heart language.
It's the vibration.
Yeah, it's the vibration beyond that.
Understand it.
Yeah.
And that's why they can see things.
Yeah.
Cats and other animals, they can see, hear, perceive things that we can't because of
Yeah.
the senses.
But I love what you said, that whenever we enter a room, there's 90-something% dark matter. I mean, Elon has been on that tip.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but it's all just a dream.
Sure.
And we
Yeah.
decide how the dream goes. Do you know the words for past, present, and future in the Aboriginal language of Australia?
Apparently they're all the same or something like that. Yeah.
I'm really bad because it's a trick question. They only have one word.
Yeah, they're all
They
the
call it
same.
the dream time, because it's all just a dream.
Yeah. No, I did. I once studied eternity. I remember in university there was a gentleman. His name was Untokos, and he studied eternity so much. We got to points where we had there were ends where we thought, oof, we're going too far. Because eternity is in your heart.
It is.
Yeah.
There's no beginning and
There's no beginning. No, eternity is in your heart, and you dwell in eternity. So you dwell. Everything that you believe is true because eternity is in your heart.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh no, we and I said to somebody, I said I'd love to go to India because those guys are really serious about spirituality.
Oh, I love India.
Oh.
And I think, I don't know why, but people haven't been, lots of tourists don't really go to India.
Yeah.
It's either business people or people like
But I wouldn't even want to go to the cities. I want to go to the mountains,
Oh,
the
you have
bushes,
to.
yeah. Where the old fathers sit and meditate on one word,
Yeah.
peace.
Tell me about it. Well, I'm going back to India. Let me know if you want to.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, there's a certain place where people go for. There's an anxiety wash that they do, and the women make people chant. And I've just the results people say, and I keep wanting to know the chant because I do think there's something about sound.
Oh, it's there are a lot of techniques. It's
Yeah.
whether it's the mudras or the mantras,
The
whether
mantras,
it's,
especially the
visualization,
incantations.
whether it's the breathing. There are so many techniques to alter the state of consciousness.
Yes.
And basically, when you go into the state of nothingness, that's when you become everything.
Yeah.
And when you become everything, then you are everything, and then you have everything, and then you never. And at that point, you don't even care whether you're rich or not because you already are.
There's a man in Zimbabwe. He when he understood that numbers are ones and zeros, he spoke to a machine, a computer, to create an amount of money in his bank account. And we called the bank, and the money was there.
Cool.
When the way he explained that money does not exist, it's a figment of the imagination. I've never heard anybody explain it like that. And that man sits on a mountaintop on a rock for 40 days and he just thinks about that.
That's really cool.
Money doesn't exist. Yeah.
I've met some amazing.
So there's lots of people that have really ascended into realms that you look at and you're like, yo,
Yeah.
they've got the
They're
time.
really cool people. I mean, for example, I met this. We were, we had started the discussion with this, Indian singer. He won this Indian singing contest, and we asked him to get a channel on air. I think you should also have a channel on air. Seriously, talking.
Oh yes, yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Because I love this content, and that's why I've been traveling around the world to look for the content creators talking about that.
Yeah.
A really good friend of mine his name is Marzo. He's the head of the shamans of the Lacandon tribe of the Maya, and he's considered to be the elders of all indigenous tribes in Mexico and Central America. And he sat in meditation for 2 weeks, and then he was told by the spirit, by I guess, since there's no separation, by himself, you have to do a channel not only for the Maya but for all indigenous tribes, to not only for culture and music and education, and not only to release the stories that everybody knows, the prophecies, but use this platform to release the new prophecies that are helping us now with this
Wow.
process. So I'd love to have people content on there that really matter, that really change the world. We don't want another 50th opera singer. We don't want.
Yeah.
We want real content.
People want change.
I think people want real people.
They do.
From the heart.
They do.
No more bullshit talk. No more this, no more that. People want real people from the heart, and that really, that really want to create something good.
Yeah,
And
very
I
true.
love that. And
There was this experiment someone did for pastors, and they said, "How did God speak to you?" And they were just document. That was the question, right? There were a few pastors that lied and said it was like a thunder and said, "Hello, my child," and they kept prying more and said, "Did he say child?" And they said, "Yes, God did say child." And then they said, "Okay." They asked the people around them, does this guy use the word child? And they said, yes, he uses child. They asked the other person, hello, my son. They said, oh, did he say son? Said, yes. They asked the people the question so many times to the point where they said, God spoke to me using my own voice. And they said, but that's odd. Does God not have his own, like a special God voice? And all of them came with the same conclusion to say, God spoke to me using my own voice. So God speaks to you using your own voice. That's a clue.
Yeah.
Why didn't he use, none of them ever said, God spoke to me in the voice of the lady who gives me a burger every morning.
That's right.
Each and every person. So we're all saying that God speaks to us in our own voice. So God has how many voices? And all those things, if you study them, and these are things that I've sat down and I said, oh, I don't know if people are aware of it. You know, somebody will say to you, like, I couldn't, like, there was this voice that said I shouldn't go to the birthday party, and then find out that somebody was killed at that birthday party.
Yeah.
You interrogate that voice. Did that voice speak to you like, and that voice spoke to you with your own voice?
That's true.
Yeah. So such amazing things. I mean, that's something that I would want to spend 30 days just mastering.
Me
To
too.
say, there are voices, there are many voices, but there is your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can know your voice and know the other voices, then you have an easier way of knowing when the voice, yeah.
Yes.
You're like, oh, that's not my voice. That won't happen. Okay, that voice worked in that way. Yeah. Such amazing things. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. What a twist and turn. Yeah. Would have expected that.
I'm glad though that,
No,
that
but
yeah.
that's what this is about. You know, this is I think there's nothing more important
Yeah.
to talk about that. You know, talk about the heart, and you know, if you want to change the world, change yourself.
So profound. So profound. So profound, yeah. And I mean, it's a sad thing that you were discussing that the Epstein files, that this whole war might have been a distraction, but oof, those are things we must tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really have to stop that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when you look at the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, they all live in harmony with one another. We're only one in there. You know? I mean, no species takes more than it needs. You know, no species is you know, falling over and sending rockets into another species or something, and no species is cutting down the trees
So
in
true.
the Amazon, you know, and you fly over the Amazon for 3-4 hours and everything is cut down, you know.
Sure.
And
Is that what they're doing? I wasn't aware, because I remember they had stopped the cutting of the
oh
Amazon.
no,
They're continuing?
a few years ago I took a flight from Sao Paulo to Lima, and I crossed the Amazon, and for at least an hour and a half or so I was driving through these big squares of nothingness, of empty roads, and everything in between was all taken out. All the trees are gone, you know. Like,
Sure.
we're doing this everywhere. We're taking the oil, we're taking the gas, we're taking the
Yeah.
minerals, we're basically taking everything.
Everything out.
Yeah,
And we're not planting back in.
that's it.
Yeah. No,
The Great Green Wall in Africa is really cool because they are now planting billions and billions of trees
of trees, yeah.
to stop the Sahara, which is so there
Yeah.
are initiatives. There are some really good people, but unfortunately, still the few guys run the show. But then again, okay. Now, Sebastian, you just said everything is you, so I'm wondering, like,
So you need to become the, you need
now,
to,
what
yeah.
in me has created that this is like, oh no, come on.
Yeah, but I think they got there first. I said to somebody, I said, when you listen to some of the guys that are leading, they realize what we realized before, and they use it to their advantage. They know that human beings' voices talk to them. So they'll plant the right media.
Yeah.
They'll fund the right journalists to say, teach them not to go this far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been taught all of it. Remember, the first thing you learned in school was danger, right?
Yeah. Well, everything is energy, and some of these people have used energy against other people.
Of
You know,
course, yeah.
for example, the swastika is
Yeah.
a very sacred symbol in
Yeah.
India,
Of
Tibet,
course,
and
yeah.
in
A lot
thousands
of them are
countries around the
cultists.
world.
Yeah.
And the Nazis in Germany, you know, turn into something evil.
Very
You know?
true, yeah.
So there is no black or white magic. There's only energy. That's it's how people use it, how people channel it.
Yeah.
And some people have created very good tools to create something really good, and
Yeah.
some people have done the opposite. You know?
Yeah.
And what you see in the files is just you know, some of that is really horrible.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said to a friend of mine, I said, you know, when I was reading the files, what concerned me the most is how we were not aware that every time the World Economic Forum had a meeting, that meeting started off on the Epstein Island. So everything we've been adopting from the World Economic Forum, thinking that the World Economic Forum is the savior of the earth, loans for nations, interest-bearing loans that revolve for African countries. We as African countries were coming to the World Economic Forum believing that, hey, we're going to come back with money to develop our nations. And we get there, and these loans are revolving, and you change one leader, you elect the next one. When he gets in, do I have a budget? No, sir, you don't. You owe the World Economic Forum. They bring you to Davos, they show you the world, and they say, oh, you better pay back your loans. And And you go back and you're like, but hold on, these guys literally flew from the Epstein Island
I
to
know.
World Economic Forum, and all our presidents
All
are
connected,
attending.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's in the files that they are suggesting that the pandemic was created, and
it's in the files.
it's on in the
It's in the
files.
files, yes.
It
We
was
know who
created.
bought all the airline
Yeah.
shares just before. And the problem is they've created such a good system of making us seem like we're the conspiracy theories.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they've made it a frame that should anybody ever say these wild things, let them look crazy.
And they did it so smart, you know. They created the problem and the solution at the same time.
Yeah,
You know, I think they created the solution before the problem.
they did. Yeah, if you look at the Pfizer shares, they
Maybe we
definitely
should do
did.
that now. We should create something really good. You
That
know,
they would
to
focus on. You sometimes, for you to win, you have to do that. I did say to somebody the other day that I think what we always miss is we lead with our hearts on our sleeves, and they don't. They do it the other way around. They show you the bad because they created the bad. They can describe the bad. Some of these guys are so good at creating the bad that when they describe the bad, you believe that they're going to change it because they created it. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at fibroids in Africa. The vaccine companies that created the vaccine for fibroids, the vaccine works so well, you would believe that they want to get rid of fibroids. But it's actually everything they put in the pads that the women wear whenever they have menstrual cycles. That chemical is the reason why the fibroid vaccine works so well.
Unbelievable.
So of course we're all happy with them because we're like, whoa, fibroids are such a big issue in Africa. Every woman should get the vaccine for fibroids, and every woman wears the pads every 30 days because when she has her periods. But we're all not aware that the reason why this vaccine works so well is because the ingredient to create the
Wow,
fibroids
it's
is the
really sick,
pads.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's the files are suggesting that the war in Ukraine is a setup. You know, it
Exactly.
was all created. Everything was
Exactly. Yeah.
created, and
Exactly. To take, and I think that's why they mysteriously plant people to abuse the crypto system in the name of we must have more articles, crypto scammer, crypto scam, crypto.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because should crypto win, how are they going to?
Well, they want to keep. I mean, I've been seeing this. You know, the 1% is getting ready. You know, they're buying like crazy. They're buying billions worth of
I
the
saw.
central banks
I
everywhere.
saw. Yeah.
And I mean, you
Yeah.
go in.
And while everybody else is liquidating.
Yeah, and then why the 99% are scared, or is it going down further? You know, they don't see the bigger picture. They're not planning for 5 years or 10 years. They're planning for decades.
Generational. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but then again, if we
I,
want to
I
see
do
changes, we
I,
have to do
I
that.
I did say to somebody, I said, I'm beginning to believe that monarchies are better than democracies. And I said to somebody that, Dubai system works because regardless, for example, the Dubai government did not increase taxes to keep everybody safe. In their mind, it's the right thing to do because they benefit from everybody being safe. If you were in Europe and you had a bomb, there would tomorrow be a shelter tax, a new tax increased to stop everybody from. This government is not thinking that. They're thinking, this is our land, we have to protect everybody in our land, and we can't allow everybody to leave. Their biggest headache is we can't allow these people to go.
Yeah.
So they don't see it as they will spend billions just to keep everybody here. And they will not first think about taxing you first because their interest is, and I said to somebody, I said, the only reason they're doing that is because they can't be a monarch anywhere else in the world except for here. So there is a sense of we do need custodians of the ship, and unfortunately, politicians and billionaires are not it. They just are not
No,
it.
they're not.
Yeah. Let's rather get the monarchs because then we do have an accountability system and we'll all leave your kingdom should things not be right. Their biggest issue right now, the Saudis, their biggest issue is we don't want these people to leave our kingdom because if they leave, we'll have nothing. They're aware that the more people you have, the bigger voice you have. The more happier people you have, the bigger. These things must come back. And maybe then we'll fix. Because if you truly own Nigeria, you wouldn't be happy for Shell to just leak oil in your country.
No.
Yeah, you would be aware that, oh, hold on, who's going to come back here? I'm going to have a bad country. I'm not going to. What do you mean these guys are going to leave and go back to where they came from and I'm going to have to deal with this mess? But because it's like, oh, I'm only here for 5 years. No problem. For the next 5 years, they'll let the leak happen. Oh, by the way, you're the new president? Oh, they voted you in? Well done. Listen, the oil, it's leaking.
I know.
Everything is bad.
It's so much corruption. It
Yeah.
has to stop, you know?
It really has. Whereas here, it's different. They can't allow you to do that because they're like, sorry, there is no someone else coming in 5 years. It's my son coming in 5 years. So I'm not going to leave my son to deal with this. So they're willing to deploy everything and anything. It's just unfortunate that you do then get the religious cuckoo guys that say, we're going to do what they're doing now. But I was even saying to somebody, I said, if one could just study, because monarchs, even in the past, monarchs were advised by kings and priests, prophets, kings, priests, and spiritual leaders. Monarchs went to them for advice to say, things aren't going well here. What do I do? Today, monarchs are advised by, well, in Africa and all these places, by billionaires.
You know that in the Indian scriptures they talk about the real true kings and queens of the past. We're not talking about the last 100 years, but of the centuries before, were the spiritually most enlightened and advanced, and
Yes.
with the biggest hearts.
Yes.
They were the ones making sure that
Yes.
people had to eat first before they did.
Exactly.
Because they knew that we're all one, and they were the biggest servants to their people.
And they were taught that your afterlife is dependent on how well your people live.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a ventured interest. They really, really did. And I said that the day things did go wrong is when we all decided that a man with a speech who screams and shouts the loudest should be the leader. Because that's what politics is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Really, really is. And I think, and that's why I was saying to somebody, I said, the GCC nations, they need to realize that billionaires are trying to attack them purely because they're like, these guys are getting it right. And if the whole world is moving to Dubai, they're upset. They're losing out on your tax. So how do they get you back in? Well, palm them. Create such chaos that they come back to democracies. And when you get back to democracies, well, are you back with your taxes? Are you ready to oblige like everybody else with the tax system?
Yeah.
Good. Now you're back in line. But while you're out here, no, they have to frustrate you. And they're enjoying democracies and presidents. They're so happy about what's going on. They're like, oh, finally, these guys are going to bring back all the money. Oh, you want to bring back those billions, don't you? We've been waiting for you. At least you won't be bombed here.
Yeah.
And up until they've brought back enough to run their show, they want the war to continue. They're happy their companies are doing well. And it's so unfortunate because these guys were doing so well. I said to somebody, I said, if you looked at the trajectory of where Dubai, you just go to Museum of the Future, you would have seen that this nation would have, I mean, the king was passing laws to say everybody must have their own room in the house. That was the next move for the king. He said, I hate this thing of shared spaces. I don't want everybody to be poor and squished in a room. He said, whether the construction worker or what, I don't care. Let them at least have one bedroom. Studios must be abolished in my kingdom. That was his frequency. Now he's got this mess now. He's not going to be thinking about that anymore. He's going to be thinking, well, how do we... And I said to somebody, I said, this is leadership. He wanted to abolish shared space. He felt that, why is it... You know what he said to one of his team members? He said, Dubai is so big. We're not like London and the UK where we have space. He said, everybody should have their own piece of land and let them build. They don't all have to be squished here. That was the new wavelength to say, all the sand you're seeing, if we could build a Burj here, we can build another Burj, build another city, cause them to spread out and live in these sort of open spaces. I said, oh, it's such a shame now that
That's true.
his mind now needs to be focused on how do we survive rather than the wavelength was in. But I do think that by us having more of these conversations, we could, because we do have the job to win the evil guys. If we truly believe that we have all this light in us, then the Epstein guys should be saved. We would be as bad as them if we want all of them dead.
Well, but then if you really if you realize that that we all one, there is no separation, which means the ones that are creating that, they're not separate from us. So they're a part of us. So I think we have to go and look within and find that part within us. That is the manipulating part. That's the cheating part. That is the corrupt part. And once we eliminate that,
That's real. Yeah.
we are creating that
When I was
that new world.
clever, I wanted to change the world.
I know
but
it's
when
really
I
hard
came
because
out-
you tend to talk about the world as we just did for the first hour, and then when you talk about the other stuff, then you realize, hey, wait a minute, if that is true, if we all truly one, and if everything that we see is us, then there's nobody to blame except us, and so once we change, everything else changes.
Yes.
So what if we are the watcher of the double slit experiment, and all of a sudden we are not conditioned anymore through what we've experienced in our life in what we've learned and how we heard and smell and experienced, but what if we stop the judgment, and then all of a sudden we are creating the most beautiful wave pattern ever.
Yeah, it is possible though. There's a gentleman I once met in South Africa, and he bought a piece of land, and he said, "I want to do good." That was his main objective. He says, "I want to do good," and he said to these guys, "said Come drill this land that I bought," and they found halogen in the land. He supplies the US with majority of the halogen. He's in Africa, yet he's one of the richest men in the world. And the work he does is phenomenal. I mean, orphanages, he supports work in India. He does so much work. And I said to him, I said, before you bought the land, did you know that there was halogen in the land? And he said, no. And I said, you're lying, because he got the land for a steal. He said, all I did is I said, I want to change the world and do good.
That's good.
That's why he bought the land. And when he dug, he found the halogen. I do believe that when we truly become enlightened, we do amass the resources to change the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do believe it.
Yeah. Well, because we are basically, if you would create something negative to hurt other people, we're hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
It's illogic, and it doesn't make sense. And I think on a certain level of awakening of consciousness, then you don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
You
it
don't
does come.
don't kick the dogs anymore. You don't shout at the people anymore, and you don't cut down the trees anymore. Or you because everything is vibration, everything is energy, everything
Yeah.
is you.
And I particularly like people in countries where there's a lot of struggle, because I find that there's a level of consciousness that they have that everyone else doesn't have. I said to somebody the other day, I said, when you have to wake up and your first thought is, where am I going to get water today? You tend to be more spiritually attuned than somebody who opened the tap and found water. So when you go deep within India, deep within Nigeria, deep within Nepal, you really find those individuals that are living at peace with nothing around them.
Yeah.
And you ask them to say, how is the whole village being fed? I said, we dug a well and we found water. And they say to you that we had no crops. Our animals budded and they gave birth better than any other animal around. Our chickens, they lay eggs faster than and you begin to find that the clothes they wear grow with them. And you're like, but you guys haven't bought clothes in a while. They say, well, the love that we cook with, we cook a small meal and it feeds the whole village. And you really see the miraculous in everything that they do because of their consciousness. To them, the meal is not just Chipotle, I'm getting my gains in, let's go. This is a work of love, and that one meal feeds them the whole day.
That's true.
So I do agree with you to say, I think if we just do the inner work, the problem is the inner work sometimes not as fun as a party. And I think that's
It
where
really depends. I think once you come to the certain point, then that part, that inner voice, that ego that says, okay, don't do this.
Yes,
Or,
yes.
I mean, I was torturing my nephew because we were, I was usually, when I'm at home, I meditate every like 1 hour every day. So when we were traveling, I said, okay, let's do meditation. Oh, how long? I said, well, half an hour. He's like, oh, that's so long. Because it's the mind, the monkey mind that always
Yeah, we want
away.
Instagram, we want Twitter,
We always want
TikTok.
gratification. We want to, we want to look at something. We want to scroll. We want to have entertainment. We want to taste something. We want to smell something. We want to like blah blah blah, all this. But what if you quiet that down, not to kill it, but just to watch it? Because who is thinking that?
Yeah.
Who is feeling that?
Well,
It is it the true you, or is there the true you? Is that the eternal everything? And that what it's chatting is something else. And
Yeah.
when you look at that and say, okay, hello, Mr. Chatter, it's all good, but I'm gonna sit here for an hour, and so
Yes.
could you please keep your mouth shut, and everything will be good. And then when you train your mind, I think then everything starts going, and you can actually train your mind. You can change your energy, and if you stay on the ball, it changes your entire life.
True. There's a new business in Tokyo, Japan. They're making lots of money. Do you know what they do? You go to that place and you say, lock me in here for 4 hours. Don't let me go, even if I ask you to.
No way.
The business is making tons of money because people have come up with the greatest ideas.
Uh-huh.
They go there, they hand over their software and say, whatever happens, do not let me go. And people literally after an hour start screaming, okay, I was joking, let me go. And they sit in stillness for that long period.
Wow.
And when they come out, people are literally booking themselves in there. Like, oh, what are you doing this Saturday? I'm just sitting in stillness. For how long? An hour? They're like, how do you do it? Because you can't do it in your home. Because the moment you want to try and do it, somebody calls you, somebody knocks, there's this, there's that. Those people literally go and book. It's a business. It's like a hotel, but they've removed everything from the room that's luxurious, and you just sit. You, piece of paper, glass of water, that's it. Come and check on you every hour, refill your water, that's it.
Yeah.
And people are paying instructors to say, I want to be in that room. Because the world we have is just filled with everything that tries to,
Yeah.
you know?
And there's never enough,
No, never.
At one point, your eyes are, screaking, and you can't sit up anymore. You're tired, because your senses and everything, or your body gets tired. But you wake up in the morning, you start again, and it's always the constant wanting something,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the negative sides of this world.
What?
Everything has become more TV, more this, more that, more
Yeah.
food. I mean, when you come to Dubai, it's like you're just being bombarded with everything.
Oh, true, yeah.
So
And I said to somebody, I said, I love this new Dubai now that a lot of people are gone because
I
you'll
know.
notice it's so much
I
cooler.
like taking photos of everyone.
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
empty, like
Yesterday I went to Dubai Mall, I was at this hotel, I was like, oh, the water's so blue.
It's like zombie apocalypse. Nobody's there anymore.
And I think the wrong energies have left.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wrong
I
energies
know.
have
It's
left.
like,
The right
come on. And there's so many people, leaving the UAE and then just saying something negative, and and Dubai is done, that, and pack your clothes and go away and everything. And it's all about sensationalism, and they're basically expressing their own fears, and it's fear mongering.
It is, yeah. And also a lot of guilt. I said a lot of people have done very wrong things to come and hide in Dubai that they feel like this is coming for them.
Yeah.
I said, if you've done nothing wrong, really, life is you sow what you reap.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've really not like ruined people's lives, the bomb will probably land on the guy who's really done whatever he sees, whatever he's sold, and whatever he's attracted. But if you're really here for the good vibes, I doubt it's coming for you. And wherever you were, bad things were going to happen to you. So it really does come to that. But what we are discussing right now, I've realized that a lot of people don't like this conversation because it forces them to do the work. Yeah. And I said to them, this doesn't get views on it. People want to know about your next project. Yeah. People don't like this because they're like, oh, I'm trying to forget the inner work.
But I've noticed over the last few months traveling, this is what people are actually yearning for.
This is what we need. Yeah.
This is, and I've met so many people that are like, oh my God, I would love to sit, be quiet. I would love not to have the worries. But the worries is just a creation that you created yourself. But if you go and try meditation, go and sit 5 minutes today, 10 minutes tomorrow, 15 minutes, half an hour. Go and sit and go and watch. You can start with guided meditations. They're all free online. And later on you will realize you don't need that anymore, and you just sit. And then once you sit and I used to the last few years I was, because of all the busyness and everything, I've kind of forgot my way because I was jumping in too many projects at the same time, working way too much and exhausting myself with travel and all of that. And I realized there's no point in that. There's no more point in working too much. There's no more point in making more money. I don't need another car. I don't need another thing. I don't need anything. I need peace and quiet. For me, for the future, this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I've noticed so many people that they'd love to have that, but they are limiting themselves, and say, oh, but how can I have that? I have these responsibilities. Everybody can create the space to have more space. We don't need more things. We need more space.
True.
Yeah. So instead of focusing, I have more things, I think for me, the most important thing that I'm looking for, or that I'm enjoying, that my biggest luxury is sitting by myself in quietness, in meditation, in the dark,
Yeah.
with nobody around, and that
You must
for
check
me
out that
is
hotel
the-
in Japan. I said to
Really?
somebody, yeah, someone needs to open that in Dubai because people here need it. And
I know.
yeah.
And then increases from 4 hours to 10 hours. Or something.
yeah, people apparently in Japan there's people that have memberships now.
Really?
To say if they don't do it, they don't, like, people literally, because also remember, you don't have screen time. It's just you. They give you a book to write all your thoughts, water, and it's just you in there. It's like a prison sort of, but obviously not prison, but yeah. And people are and I can imagine Tokyo is a very busy city. So people literally love it. They book themselves in voluntarily to say, I need it. One of the things I said to somebody, I said, I've realized the reason why Africans tend to be very happy is because these traditions have lingered in the villages. If you go to the villages in Africa, those people are happy.
Yes.
I said to somebody the other day, I said, I watched a lady get a Birkin. She waited, there was a wait list for this Birkin bag. And I watched this video, and I was watching all of them. And I said to somebody, I said, these women remind me of the village women, because her excitement, I said, there's the women in the village after washing clothes in the side of the river as they sing And they're now using this organic soap that we've now donated to them through the foundation. And, we go there and we say to them, listen, don't use this soap. The Chinese are trying to just pollute our rivers. Use this organic soap. And that's what we do. We donate the soap to them. And you obviously go and watch how's the project doing for the foundation. So as I go and watch and I hear them all singing and they're all just doing the laundry and they're all singing in tune. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, and the one is laughing and I'm looking and I'm just like, this is life. Like, I almost want to say, hey, give me some clothes to start washing, because all we do is we chuck it all in the washing machine, or we get an app that just brings, and these women are literally washing their children's clothes.
Yeah.
And as they wash, they fold and they put at the riverside at the next bit of washing. And they're all singing and they all meet at the same week, same time. And you should see the smile, you should see the giggle. And I'm just there at the river saying, we don't have this.
Yeah.
We don't, many of the people I know in all the big cities, I've often asked them to say, have you ever washed clothes at a river? And they're like, why would I do that? And I'm like, for me, I just go back and I just sit and I just watch and I just listen. I'm like, these women that's all they do.
We've seen this a lot in India.
Exactly.
I love the small villages. People are living like in sync with the earth, with the plants, with the animals. They are they have their cows. They're not going to they don't buy their meat in a supermarket.
It's the cow that's with, yes.
They're raising their cows, and
I want to do that in Africa, a retreat sort of. Yeah.
I did something. I said something incorrect. The cows are not, of course, are not being eaten because of the holiness, but they're using the milk. But other animals, for example, goats or or chickens or something, they're living with them and they are living in harmony with them. And the energy of this, it's like this organic being with one another.
Circle of life. Yeah.
And then they're taking the milk from the cow and then they are making the cheese out of it or the paneer.
Oh wow.
And then
that's amazing.
And then they taking the cow shit and then they're putting like straw or something in there and then they put it on the wall as these little
they do that as well in Venda where I come from. Yes.
As a
it's the dung. They mix the dung as a carpeting. Yeah.
Everything's being used. And then when you drive through these villages and I'm like, I love it. I admire it because there's so much harmony in there.
Yeah.
Everybody has their place.
Yeah.
They're very grounded. They don't have to think about, okay, how am I have to commute to New York City tomorrow?
Yeah. No.
And they are, it says, as you know, statistically, it's like the most developed nations are the most depressed and they're using most of the medication.
True, yeah. I said to somebody the other day, I said, what I find very interesting with, especially the work we do with the foundation, is that many of the times when you're dealing with people that don't have much, happiness that's not an equation. They are all very happy, very content. What you tend to find is how do they interact with we, the unhappy? They'll say things like, and I found this to be so profound. There was a study we did. So there's a place in Mozambique, on the coast of Mozambique. They found some exploration for gas and oil. So this American company comes and says, hey, call all the men in the village. And they hire all of them. And about 1,000 men show up and they say, we're going to get money. And these men work for the month. They're like, when are we getting paid? They said, end of the month. I said, okay, they work hard. And all these execs are like, oh, Africans are strong. They're all ready. Pick up this rock. We want to drill. They're all picking up the rock. End of the month, they all get paid. And they say, oh, thank you so much. And the CEO keeps saying, all of them have been thanking me on payday. So he thinks they're all excited. Come Monday, the CEO says, where are all our workers? And they say, oh, they're not here. Let's go find out. They drive to the village. They get to the village and they're like, hey, guys, where are you guys? They're like, we're at home. And they're like, hey, this is a job. You're supposed to come tomorrow. And they say, but you've already given us the money. Why would we come tomorrow? Our huts, we just needed the money to buy a few things in town. Now we have the money. They're like, no, that's not how employment works. You're on contract. They're like, what contract? We were just signing those things because you said you'd pay us and we got the money. So what else are we working for?
It's very smart.
They're like, no, you can open up a bank account. You can save. They're like, why would I save? Like, save for a rainy day. They're like, but I've been living all my life without the saving. And literally the CEO then says to us as a foundation, they say, you guys need to go there and teach them corporate jargon. And I said to the guy, and I said, what if we don't have to teach them that?
Yeah.
What if they're the correct ones to say, I needed money, I helped you with the service, you gave me the money, I bought what I needed, and I'm now back in my village. Like, why would I wake up the next month? The CEO could not understand that.
Maybe we need to start listening to them.
Maybe that's what we need to do. To say, if you've got a need, go and help somebody. You make the money, and when you're done, the company doesn't need to keep innovating and evolving, and you're now cracking your brain to how do I take this company to the next level, and now we have Europe to conquer, and now, no, maybe the money you needed, you built your ranch, you built your villa, that's it. And majority of those people chose not to continue.
Yeah.
They went back and they said, get them again, rally them up, tell them. The ones that continued were the ones that got addicted to alcohol.
Wow.
They wanted to buy more alcohol, feed their alcohol addiction, and they continued to work. And then somebody said, oh, is this how they conquered Africa? That they got them to continue working? Because majority of them in Africa, they don't have a bond.
Yeah.
They don't have a car. They travel through donkey. They travel through road. They walk barefoot. So they don't need all this money. I mean, you paid us your money. We bought what you wanted to buy and we put it away.
They're like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they're like, thank you. That
Auf
was it.
Wiedersehen.
The guy's like, no, don't you have a mortgage? They're like, no, we don't have a mortgage. Like, you want to save? They're like, why would I save for a rainy day? It's rained many days in my life and the heart was okay, you know. And I said to somebody, I said, maybe these are the way to live. Because we've been taught, you know, now you've got to invest.
We are things so
Yeah,
smart.
now you've got to, you know, and we think we're the genius.
We have to buy crypto.
We have to buy another thing and another thing and a new car, and a new iPhone. Have you seen the iPhone 17 now, 18? And they're like, no, you've given me the money, I've already got that.
That's true.
And it was so funny because I just thought to myself, and I thought, sure, what an innocence of life to say, you paid me, I helped you, and I'm happy. You know, and those are people you can't take to court and say employment this and leave this and you need to. And like, no, I got what I wanted out of life, and that was it. And I was like, these are the guys we need to learn from them.
Absolutely.
Because I think what we've been taught is wrong, that, you know, you just have to keep working and found this company and start that one and move to 10x and 20x. And now you're attending a conference to learn how to be harsher to the next person for your 20x and cheat this one out of this. I said, maybe that's the way, just to live that life. And many people are doing that. I mean, you go to Mauritius, there are literally people that have built self-sustaining homes in Mauritius and said, the more devoid you are from the world, the happier they are.
That's true.
The more devoid, they just like, we hate alarms. We wake up when the sun hits us. We go feed the cows, feed the horses. We do what we need to do. And maybe that's the secret.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because I think greed does leave us wanting the hamster wheel.
Oh, we are missing the point.
Yeah. Because when then is it enough? You know? Because there'll always be a new penthouse. It's always a new iPhone. Always a new Apple Watch.
That's
always
true.
a new Philippe Tech. Always a new. So we just end up chasing it, and really you have to get to a point where that inner peace you find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see now that, you know, I was saying to somebody the other day, I said, money is now being paid for the things that were free because we've forgotten that they were free.
That's true.
There's a story that Spencer Lodge, a phenomenal story. He adopted children from Nepal, and he said to me, you were on his podcast, said to me, Paul, they've cured me of my clinical depression. I said, what do you mean, Spence? And he said, I literally was depressed. I'd get home every day, depressed, sad from corporate. But ever since I've adopted these kids, I get home and they've prepared a meal for me, and I'm starstruck. I'm like, you thought of me? And they get home and they want to tell me what they did at school. And he's like, literally, my clinical depression. I said to the psychiatrist that, hey, I don't need this medication anymore. These kids that had no home. And he said the first time he bought them ice cream, he said they were like, this is an amazing thing. We've never had this in our lives. And he said he was like, that was his moment of joy, because he said his kids sort of demanded ice cream from him, you know, and they were like, oh my gosh, get us that thing you bought us, that
That's
you know, was made with milk. And so I think at the end of it all, we all do come back to ourselves at some point and realize. But yeah, India's a place and they're go-getters, hey? I mean, the Indian, I once met these Indian kids that created an Uber app. And at first I didn't believe them. But when they actually showed me the tech stack, I was like, whoa, you guys should be in Silicon Valley. And they were like, we can't speak English, so no one will take us seriously.
There's some brilliant people, and some brilliant technologies that they created,
Yeah. At a fraction of the American...
Oh, fraction, costs and everything, Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, let's change the world. I think we have it in us. Let's be the good that